Hello over there, and welcome once again to Brightco English channel. This channel will always try as much as possible to make you a fluent and a confident speaker of the English language. Now, in this episode, we are going to look at the tenses. We're going to look at the tenses, and before we get into the deeper details, I just want to remind you that if at all you've not subscribed to the channel, kindly just hit the subscription channel down there. And you can also hit the bell icon so that it can remind you any moment that a new video is uploaded. Otherwise, if you have any issue, comment, you can always put it down there and I'll get back to you. Now, let's get back to the business. Let's look at the tenses. Now, a very controversial thing here. How many types of tenses do we have in English? That's the first question that I would like to ask. It's a very controversial question because many people say that there are 3 tenses. Some say there are 2. So I don't know where you belong, whether you say there are 3 or there are 2. But I'll try to explain so that we get to know the reason why we say there are this number of tenses in English. Now, first of all, the word tense originates from Latin, the word tempus, meaning time. So tense in English, these are words which convey aspect of time in a sentence, and that's why you find that if you are poor in your tenses, you find that your constructions will not be meaningful because you will not say what you mean. The time will be the time that is attached to your meaning will not be the same, and as such you find that you'll be off the mark. So the types of tenses that we have in English, there are 2. The 2 main types of tenses that we have in English. That is the present and the past. The third one, which you normally call the future tense, we normally use it wrongly. We only call it future time, not future tense, because I'm going to explain the reason why we don't call it future tense, but future time. Because for us to call, to talk of a tense, meaning that word which gives the element of tense, and there are only 2 words that can be used in this, and that is the present tense and also the past tense. The present will be used to talk about the current events or activities, and then the past tense, we use it when you're talking about activities which have expired or events which have already been overtaken by time. But now future, let me just use it technically, but not grammatically. Future, which you normally call future tense instead of future time, we use it when we are trying to express maybe something or an activity that is anticipated. It has not yet happened, but we anticipate that it will happen sometime to come. But we mark it clearly that we don't call it future tense, but we call it future time. Now, why do we say future is not tense, but we only have 2 types of tenses, that is the present and the past? Now, the tense is expressed by use of inflected verb. And when you're talking about the inflected verb, if you may go back to my previous episodes, you find that I'd talked about the inflected verb, the verb that can be conjugated in different contexts. And therefore, when you look at the types of verbs that we're talking about here, they can only appear in either present or in the past. The rest, they are just conjugation of the 2. For example, when I take, for instance, let me be consistent with the one verb so that we use it across board in all the tenses that I would like to give you here. Let me take, for instance, the word like speak. The word speak is a verb, and it is the base form or the infinitive form, which is also the present form, is speak or speaks, depending on the person that you're using with. So in this case here, when you say I speak, we speak, he speaks. So speak or speaks, they are in present form. And when you say I spoke, that is in past form or the past tense. But now, is there any inflection that you can use to express future? No. the future, the reason why we don't call it future tense but future time, there is no specific verb that you can use to express future tense. You can only express future by use of by use of the present tense. For example, when I say speak, I'll say I will speak. So you can see the inflected verb I'm using here is still speak. I only introduce that auxiliary or that modal will, okay? So that to express the future time, but not future tense. You get it right? So the tenses are created by use of the inflected word, inflected verbs. And that is, we have present and past. So speak, spoke. So speak is present, spoke is past, but there isn't any inflected form that can be used to express the future tense. And that's why we still revert to the present form, that is speak. We only introduce the auxiliary will to express that future time. So don't ever say 3 types of tenses. Don't include future as a tense. Call it time, because we'll still refer to the use of the present form speak. Go, I will go. I went. So you can see went, the past form. Go, the present. Went, the past tense. Go, the present tense. But if you're expressing future, you'll use go, which is the present. And that's why we don't say future as a tense. I hope you now get it very well. So in this case here, we have present tense, the past tense, but the future is time. Don't talk of future tense, future time. Now, when you're using these tenses, you find that we use them depending on the persons. For example, the first person, singular, I speak, plural, we speak. When you're talking about the past, singular, I spoke, plural, we spoke. What about the third person? He speaks, she speaks. What about they? They speak. But the past tense, he spoke, she spoke, they spoke. So you can get the difference there, that when you are using them, they change depending on the word, depending on the person that you are using. So one thing that you need to know where most people normally make mistakes is now the form that it takes when you are talking about first person, singular, and the first person and then the third person, especially singular. For example, you can't say he speak. You say he speaks. But plural, they speak. That's how it goes. But the first person, I speak. Second person, you speak. The third person, he speaks. You can see there. So one thing that you need to take note of there is that we add s to the verb when it is singular. Okay? A very clear departure from the plurals of nouns, whereby we normally add s to express the plurals. When it comes to verbs, we add s to express the verb in the singular. So that's why we say he speaks. It's always a very common mistake to find a student say they go home. She go home, which is wrong. You say she goes home. But what about they? They go home. So I believe that's what you need to know of here. So one thing that you need to put at the back of your mind is that the types of tenses that we have in English, they are 2. That is the present tense and the past tense. But the future, which mostly people call tense, should be referred to as future time. And why do we say future is not a tense but a time? Because it is only formed by use of the present tense. And there are also other areas other ways through which you can express the future, as we shall look in our subsequent episode. Otherwise, I believe this tutorial was very helpful to you. See you in the next tutorial. Thank you very much, and see you in the next one.